Hey, welcome back to my channel. I am Lao Wai Jockey and this is the Lao Wai Jockey channel. And today I will be talking about general info to help you play Japanese horse racing games part 2. I changed it up from the list I left in part 1. And here is the things I will be talking about today. Kanto, Kansai, Katakana, leg type, horse symbols or classifications, jockey caps, and horse birthdays. So let's get started with Kanto and Kansai. So these are two regions in Japan, and you are going to hear about these if you play Japanese horse racing games. The source of this image is from CNN, and let me quote what they said there. Whether in baseball, kendo, or horse racing, teams and athletes from each region are highly competitive with each other, and so are the fans. And yes, they are competitive, these two regions, when it comes to horse racing games, or in horse racing in general. Tokyo in Kanto and Osaka in Kansai. It's a classic East Coast, West Coast kind of thing, with Kanto region being the East Coast, I guess, and Kansai being the West, or the East Side, West Side, for lack of a better term. So if you are trying to decide when you're playing a Japanese horse racing game, which area you want to select. You can sort of think of it if you're from the East Coast of your country or from the West Coast, select like that. I mean, it's up to you, right? You do you, and, you play the game you want to play. So what about these two regions? Well, let's get into them a little further. The Kanto region has the JRA Miho Training Center. This image here is from the 2001 game Horsebreaker. Now, this is probably a bit dated, being 2001, so I did find some more information regarding the training centers that are available in Japan. So, yeah, this again, 2001, if you want to pause and take a look at it, it's in Japanese, kind of a cool layout design. Horsebreaker, a great game. I've talked about it before. I won't get into details about it now. That'll be a separate video. But here is more information in English from a guidebook from 2022. You can see the link where I got this from. It's a PDF, actually, showing the training center for a more recent photo of it and more of the English information. Again, you can pause and take a look at all that if you want, if you're into that. This is the Rito Training Center in the Kansai region. And as you can see, again, beautiful layout and design from Horsebreaker. And you can pause again and take a read if you want to take a look at it. And here is the information of that training center, more recent from 2022. Again, the location of where I got it from online is available, so you can download that PDF if you like. And here is, from that PDF, an English write-up about it. I won't read through that. It's quite a lot to read. But like I said, if you're interested, you can pause the video and take a look at it. And you might be doing a lot of pausing in my videos today because there is a lot of information to cover. Now, when it comes to Japanese horse racing games, let me show you some examples where this stuff comes in. First of all, from Shukun Gallop Bloodmaster. And in today's video, I will be showing you lots of references from this, simply because it's Gallop. Gallop is that magazine, horse racing magazine, that's quite famous. And they have a lot of good information in the Shukun Gallop Bloodmaster game. And here's an example of it. This has to deal with the horse trainers in that game. There's the Miho training and the Rito training. This is G1 Pocket Stable. This is a Game Boy Color game that I recently got, as you can see. I unfortunately just have the loose cart of it. It says Kanto, Kansai. You can select for your region. Here's the example of Derby Jockey and Derby Jockey R. As the jockey, you can select the stable that you want to go to, you want to go into from the Kanto and the Kansai region. And I thought I'd throw Turfwind in there. Turfwind, I just put it in a little purple square or rectangle, I should say. Just saying, yeah, you're selecting the region of Kanto or Kansai. Katakana, what is it? This channel won't be talking too much about the language side in the sense of learning Japanese, as I myself don't know much Japanese. I mentioned before in a previous video, my background is Chinese. Although I have studied linguistics in the past, and I do like linguistics, at this point in time, my Japanese language level is like white belt. I guess you could say that when it comes to the karate reference, right? But let's talk about katakana. So I will cover it a little bit here, but if you're looking for more of a Japanese language learning video, yeah, there's tons of those on YouTube. So what is katakana? It is the more angular form of kana, which is their syllabic writing. It's used in Japanese primarily for words of foreign origin. So when talking about foreign origin words, my linguistic side of me is going to kick in. I'm going to talk about transliteration. Transliteration is a foreign word in another language. We have them in English. For example, the word koala and the word kangaroo. Both those words come from an Aboriginal Australian language. Even the word raccoon, using an animal reference again, that comes from a native North American language. So yeah, those are examples. But let me give you one that's a little more clear. So using Chinese reference, for example, the word coffee. In Chinese is cafe, and the word chocolate in Chinese is 巧克力. So you can hear that transliteration. And when it comes to Japanese, they use katakana for that transliteration. But moving along, the Japanese writing system is hiragana, katakana, and kanji. This, again, you can see the source I got it from. I guess it's called Mondly. It's a blog regarding the Japanese alphabet writing system. Now, the hiragana is more of a cursive style. Katakana is more of that angular block style. And the kanji is the Chinese characters. In fact, when I see that word there, I can see it as hanzi in Chinese, which means the Han characters, which means Chinese characters. This is a katakana chart from Tofugu. Great site for learning Japanese. And I can show you another chart from them. This is the hiragana chart. Hiragana I won't talk about in this lesson, and I probably won't talk about lesson, I'm calling it, this video. And I probably won't be talking about it. I might, I don't know. But the reason why I want to talk about katakana is clear. Names of horses are in katakana, if not in English. And the reason they are in katakana is the transliteration side of their names. So their names could be from other languages. So I wanted to make that clear. That's why they're using katakana for horse names. Now, to confuse matters even more, let me just put in a quick note here. Jockey names, stable names, player names can be in all three of them, katakana, hiragana, or kanji, and sometimes in English. This is in most games. From my experience of playing Japanese horse racing games, I've noticed that they sometimes give you just hiragana and katakana and English. Sometimes they give you also the kanji to enter that information in. Sometimes they just give you hiragana and katakana. That's it. So you will find this stuff as you go along. But I thought what I'll do is give you some examples of these names of horses that are in katakana. So here is the game Derby Jockey R. Here is a race result that from a screenshot from when I played the game. Here you can see in the right corner, I've put the characters, the kanji, the Chinese characters, and their English translation, so that you can get a reference of what each one of those means. So what we want to focus on, of course, is you can see in horse name, you can see they're in katakana. The other one I want to show you is the jockey name. And as you can see, most of them are in characters, except for Y, which is the jockey name that I selected when I was playing. Here is that same race result list. And I wanted to show you the second place winner, which the horse that I had while playing that game was an actual horse. It existed. Using the source of the Netkeba database, the horse itself was from 1982. I believe the name is Tantino Luna. And there's that transliteration I was talking about. This is a great source for finding information about horses, Japanese horses. And you will find, as you play these games, that they were actual horses, or at least they took the name of actual horses. Whether their information matches up or not, in this particular case, this horse had 14 races and it won 2 of them. Not clear if that's the information and that data is actually in the game, but it's kind of curious, and fun to check out these horses if you're into doing some research in the games that you're going to play in the future. Here's the example of the 3rd place horse that was named Speed Talti. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Again, it was a horse that was born in 1986. 13 races, won 2 of them, using katakana as the horse's name. Here is Shukan Gallop Bloodmaster. This is a training game, and as you can see, the name is Moose Thunder. Now, this is a name that I created for the horse. It's kind of fun. It won in this particular match, in this race. And I wanted to use this screen to mention that in some games, when it comes to horse names, jockey names, stable names, you can't just use a single katakana like I'm showing you in that example, right? Or a single hiragana or a single kanji. They won't let you do it. So if you are used to AAA for a name in a video game, you're probably not going to be able to do that in the horse racing games. How to solve that? Well, when it comes to horse names, like I did, I went and I used a translation, I think it was Bing at the time, and I said, hey, Moose Thunder, what's that in Japanese? And it gave me the katakana for it, and then I just typed it in at the time in the game. So be wary of that you might run into this situation where you can't just go AAA, BBB, or whatever you use if you're that kind of a player when it comes to video games. Leg type. I won't talk too much about leg type because this is something a lot of horse racing game players already know about. If you're new to actually horse racing games in general, this might help you out, but I won't get into great details about it. So what is leg type? It is the position the horse likes to be when running in the race. Like I said, this is actually from Gallop Racer 2001, the English manual. This explains leg type a little more detailed. To the listeners who already know about what leg type is, I won't get into details. I'll just show you examples of it in Japanese horse racing games. So yeah, Gallop Racer 2001. If you don't know about it, you can pause and read this, or you can, if you get the game, you read it in the manual. Here it is with Gallop Racer 2000. Gallop Racer 2000 is a game that wasn't introduced in English, so that's why I referenced it here. It's the same thing that you saw in the previous, in the English one for Gallop Racer 2001. Exactly the same design, and like I said, you have run, preceding, insert, home stretch, and free, just in Japanese. This is a reference to Thoroughbred Breeder 2 Plus. I put that in a kind of a square where it is on that manual page. Thoroughbred Breeder is an interesting series. I had just recently, not to go off topic, got all of the games for it. There are 3 games for the Super Famicom, and there are 2 games for the PlayStation. I will, and I want to do a video on that series specifically in the future. But yeah, it's a cool series. The music is great, and I'll talk about that in that video if I do it. But yeah, I have I've got the whole series. I just got the third game. This is Classic Road. Classic Road, the examples in that. This is another great series that was in Super Famicom and PlayStation, and it seemed to have stopped. It didn't move on after that, but yeah, here they are referenced in Classic Road. Horse classifications, horse symbols. I didn't know how to classify this, so I'm just going to call it horse classifications. The Japanese actually is horse symbols, more the translation. But I figured, well, I'll just call them classifications. So what are these things? Well, before I talk about those kanji specifically, let me talk about these two kanji that it might be an idea to get to know. They're the ones for mare and stallion. You will see a lot of these in Japanese horse racing games. The example I'm using is from Shukun Gallop Bloodmaster. This is the race result, and I did circle them, for one mare and one stallion. As you can see there, they are. So like I said, it might be an idea to get to know those characters because you're going to see them a lot. Moving right along here. So this is from Derby Time 2005, and it kind of sums up what those symbols are. In fact, it even talks about when a horse doesn't have a symbol, what it means. So when a horse doesn't have any of those symbols, it means the father was born in a foreign country and the horse was born in Japan. So there's no symbol attached to that. The first one on the list, that actually means father, by the way, in Chinese. It means both the father and the horse are born in Japan. The second symbol, which means foreign or Y, which is a circle version of Y, it is a horse born in a foreign country and managed by domestic trainers. Then we have that Y symbol again, but in a square. It is a horse managed by a foreign trainer. And then we have D, which usually means like ground or local in Chinese. And it means it is a horse managed by a local horse trainer. And then we have this one, which is shi, which actually means like marketplace in Chinese. And it just means it is a horse that was traded on sale in public auction. So this is the example from Derby Time 2005. Here's an example of Stable Star for the Super Famicom. It pretty much is the same as the Derby Time 2005, except it adds in two classifications for D, or for local racehorses. So let's take a look at that. The first one, the D with a circle, is racehorses that have been relocated from local horse racing. And then it has D in a square, which is racehorses belonging to local horse racing that only participate in limited races. So when you see that symbol, basically it means the horse is local, right? You can see that. You can pause the video here if you want to read through that thoroughly, if you want to give it a look. I have another example of this, and that is from Shukun Gallop Bloodmaster. This one explains it a little more detailed. It talks about the foreign horses and the local horses. So again, if you want to pause, you can, and you can read that information. This is the official information from the JRA website regarding the rules, and there's the source I got it from. And there are a few more symbols in there, and those ones I don't think will appear in Japanese horse racing games. They might. One more thing about those symbols, I thought I'd show you. This is Thoroughbred Breeder, The Conquest of the World. That's that Thoroughbred Breeder series I was telling you about. Here's the example of it on one of the pages of the manual where they use those symbols. I circled it with that pinkish, purplish colored square circle thing. They talk about Japan. They talk about, because it says urban, which means Japan. Haiwai, which means foreign. Again, I'm using Chinese references to talk about that. But you can see it being used in a Japanese horse racing game. So yeah, it might be an idea to be familiarized with those symbols. And why is it important, those symbols? It's important because certain horses might not be allowed to compete in certain races, or you might run into that while you're betting. You'll see those symbols. Or if you're looking to breed, it might be an idea to be mindful of those, because that way it might limit you in what races that you're allowed to enter your horse in, or you're allowed to ride that horse in if you're playing a jockey game. Colored caps. Why do jockeys have caps of different colors in Japanese horse racing games? It all has to do with brackets. So this source comes from the Japanese racing website. You can see the source below in the picture. When running a race, horses are allocated to a bracket that is a grouping of 1 to 3 horses in a race. Now, each bracket is designated with a color. For example, number 1 is white, number 2 is black, and so forth. And the jockey's cap color is decided by the bracket number of the horse. This makes it easier for fans to locate their picks during the race, whether he or she is watching it on TV or from the grandstand. Let's take a look at this bracket colored cap example in a horse racing game. So using Derby Stallion 2 for the example, this is the same picture that I used in the last video. You can see to the far left are the brackets from 1 to 8 and their colors. They're exactly the same as in the previous picture of the colored caps. The only difference being is number 2, they make it gray instead of black. And that's only because of the text, right? If they made it black, you wouldn't be able to see the number 2. Here is a screenshot of how the race is run in Derby Stallion 2. Depending on the game, different races are run in different ways. So this particular game in Derby Stallion 2, you can see they actually use those colored caps at the top with the number of the horse, so that you know the horse you're betting on, how it's doing, or you know the horse you're managing and training and how that's doing. And speaking of betting, there is a unique type of betting in Japanese racing that deals with these colored caps. It's called bracket quinella. Now, this image is from the Japanese Horse Racing Association's PDF on how to bet, and unfortunately, I can't seem to find where I found it on the net. But as you can see in the types of betting, there are many of them which are quite familiar to people who have bet before in the past in other racing games, horse racing games that is, like win, place, quinella, exacta, trifecta, etc. But there is also bracket quinella. And basically, you select 2 brackets to finish first and second in any order. Here it is with Derby Stallion 2. I just put a picture together that shows that particular bracket quinella and that image I used in the last video, etc. Now, how exactly does it work in a Japanese horse racing game? I will do a video. I'm planning on doing one about betting in Japanese horse racing games, but for now I'll just show this. This is sort of a step-by-step how it works, using, again, Derby Stallion 2. There are 4 images here. The first one is, actually there was a menu just before this image, which allowed me to select the betting paper. And what I did in image 1 is I selected this bracket quinella. Like I said, number 1, you can see that I selected the bracket quinella, and then I started to select which brackets I wanted to bet on. And then in number 2, I selected both 7 and 8 brackets, and then I selected the money, which was the highest denomination in the game that you can per betting paper. And then number 3, this is the typical ticket that you get and you'll see this a lot in Japanese horse racing games. And it says Bracket Quinella 7 and 8 to come in first and second, respectively. Unfortunately, when you look at the results, it wasn't 7 and 8. 7 made it, but it was 3 and 7. So it's kind of a cool way to bet, and something a little bit unique. Finally, I want to talk about horse birthdays. This is just a quick little thing about that. In many Japanese retro horse racing games, when a horse is born, it is 1 year old. The other point is horses are 1 year older after every January the 1st, and they are not allowed to start racing until 3 years old. Now, the reason why I say this is in current 2024, there has been lots of changes over the last 20-something years in Japanese horse racing, and this might not apply anymore. Like, for example, they do have 2-year-old races, from what I understand, and I believe now Japanese horses, when they're born, are at 0. They just sort of made it standard with the rest of the world. But the games that you're going to be playing were made in the 90s and in the 2000s. So you're going to have the old rule standards. And I just thought I'd mention that if you have been looking at the more current stuff in Japanese horse racing, and for you to be aware of that when you're playing these games. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.